Hi, Mark Hodgkinson here. I'm a grade 5 teacher currently at Eagle Heights Elementary School in London, Ontario. And this activity is straight out of the grade 5 Ontario art curriculum, but I've definitely included some elements from the literacy curriculum as well. So it's an art talk. We've done one previously with the idea of looking at minimalism. This one's looking at art pieces by Piet or Piet, sometimes they say. Mondrian. That's me throwing a little French flair in there. We spent a few seconds trying to say the name and playing around with the name. But Piet Mondrian is usually what we settle on. The next slide kind of introduces him. If you notice, I have it out of presentation mode. We want to have access to these slides. So I'm presenting this with the projector at the front of the class, but students are in groups, and each group has a Chromebook, and I've shared this document with them. But, excuse me, but they have their own version of it. So group one will be Art Talk Piet Mondrian Group One, Art Talk Piet Mondrian Group Two. When I make the groups, I try and make sure that I have a couple strong students who are capable with literacy skills, and I try and divide out my English second language students so that they're not all clustered in one group. But they're all encouraged to use whatever vocabulary is comfortable with them. So we talk about his birth and his death and this idea of the distilled movement, which is the style movement, and that at the time it was considered very modern. So it was nothing like the traditional types of art that came before it. Then we get a little bit of time to just look at this piece. I give them about 30 seconds. I encourage them to just think and not share. So they often want to put their hands up and give me some ideas. And I say, just keep all that stuff inside. Just let this piece soak in. Don't say anything to your group mates. I'm going to ask you a few questions in a second. At which point I move them onto this slide. In the space below, type in words that come to mind when you and your group first look at this painting. Anything goes, whatever words pop in your head, you don't have to agree. So they type into this space here. So they just simply take out the type that's there. And if they wanted to type a word like crazy or colorful or fun or frenetic, whatever they feel like putting in, they can type in their words into that space. And then after they've had lots of time to share all of their ideas, they move on to this second question, which is how does the artist use color, line, and shape to create the idea of movement? So I always talk to them about the fact that I'm not trying to trick you here. This artist is trying to show movement. So how do they use color, line, and shape to create the idea of movement? So talk about it as a group and then share your ideas. And again, I circulate the classroom, trying to make sure that no one's dominating the conversation. The group I have this year is really great about this. They'll go around the circle and everybody gets a chance to share their ideas. And then they'll begin to type it inside the space. So they'll talk about perhaps the fact that the small squares look like they're moving along in a conveyor belt or along a chain, or that the little squares with the yellow lines make it look like a road. So they'll share their ideas, and again, they type into the space here. And finally, our third question is, what story is the artist trying to tell, and what would you call this piece of art? So at this point, the students can either, as a group, come up with a story and name the art piece, or if two members of the group have an idea and they have a different name for it than the other members, they can certainly put it in that space. I even allow them to, if they want, to right-click and duplicate the slide so that they can have two panels to work on this. So a good idea is maybe to go through these three slides in advance to let them know what's coming up and then sort of rediscover it with them. That way they can move at their own pace. It's up to you and how you want to run it with your class. Now, finally, I get to this slide here, which is now that you know the name of the title. Well, this is how they get to know the name is they grab the picture and they drag it over that blue square. And when they drop it, they see it's called Broadway Boogie Woogie. And I ask them to Google the words, the first and then the next two together to get more information. So they're going to be looking up the word Broadway and the word Boogie Woogie. So they'll quickly discover Broadway is a major street in Manhattan. They may reflect on the fact that we talked in this first panel that he died in New York City. And my students, because of a couple stories we've done this year, do have some experience with New York City. and they might find out that boogie woogie was a style of music or a kind of dance. So they'll find different things there. So they try and get their information about what they think the artist was trying to convey. And a lot of times it will match some of the ideas that they shared here. So the next part is the art part. This is the part they love. We look at some other works by the same artist. I decided just to put two pieces in. So I included this piece and then this one. And this is the one that we're going to try and recreate. And I'm not strong in the art area, but I have found this great video which walks the students through how to make one of these. We did have quite a few students last year when I did the activity try more complex ones like this. So my stronger art kids will ask, can I do something like this one? Absolutely. Or the other idea is that they, instead of doing it as a rectangle, that they do it inside another geometric shape. Circle was the way that it was. One of my very strong art students last year did a circle and did this type of art style, and it turned out wonderfully. So I give them a few tricks for using the felt markers, because you want to use felt for this, about laying down cardstock to make sure that they don't bleed over their lines. And that is the activity and the discussion, and it sets us up nicely for the next activity, which is the Wile E. Coyote one. All right, thanks very much.